kí gbogbo ọmọ kóòtù òjìrè jákèjádò àgbáláyé ẹ̀yin ènìyàn mi ó ti di woro sí woro o. Àwọn ọ̀dọ́ Zanfara gbogbo wọn ti lọ rọ̀bọ̀n o. Wọ́n ti kó ìbọn bíi 2000 jáde láti fi kojú àwọn agbésùmọ̀mí eléyìí tí ó tún kọ lẹ́tà sí wọn wípé láìpẹ́ láì jìnnà o kò ní sí ẹnikẹ́ni tó máa dá oko ní ìlú Zanfara. Fúdìí èyí àwọn ọ̀dọ́ ti wá yarí o. Gbogbo wọn ti kó ìbọn síta. Àwọn náà lẹ́ ń wò yìí. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n tún ṣe training. Ẹ rí ibi tí ọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà ń bọ̀. Ẹ̀yin ènìyàn mi ẹ jẹ́ ká dira ní gbogbo ibi tá a bá wà. Ẹ̀yin ènìyàn mi ẹ farabalẹ̀ ẹ jẹ́ á jọ gbọ́ ẹ̀kúnrẹ́rẹ́ ìròyìn náà lẹ́nu brother wa yìí.
Wednesday, the 8th day of April is today, 2026. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me in this video. Yesterday, a video was sent to me by my person in Zanfara State, and he briefed me about everything they have done to defend themselves. So I was surprised when he was telling me that over 2,000 guns have been produced or acquired. Some of them were acquired, some of them were produced in Zanfara State by the farmers to defend themselves. And now they are organizing training. So after seeing the video, I decided to do more and more verification about it. I requested an interview from him. He declined it because I understand the sensitivity of what they are doing. So I decided to go forward to ask him, why are you people doing the training? Is it, I hope there is nobody disturbing you people, because the motive that you are using to do it, your intentions are pure, based on you are doing it to defend yourselves. He said that the terrorists, the bandits, the prodigal sons sent them message that the farms that they suffered to do, that they should not enter it any longer, and hunger is increasing. They can't bear it any longer. So it is better if government cannot do it, they do it by themselves. So instead of them to die of hunger, they decided to arm themselves up to 2,000 guns. Well, you may call these guns shoot and run, hunter's gun. Yes, these guns is eligible for civilians to carry. It requires registration. And at this point, I'm going to suggest to Zanfara State government what they should do. This is your people. These are not Yorubas. These are not Igbos. If you like, you do it. If you don't like, don't do it. The most important thing now is that the people are saying to hell with anybody who think that they can come into their community and bring gun and chase them out. To hell with that person. To hell with the prodigal sons and the terrorists. And I'm going to tell you this. Watch out. Almost the whole community in Nigeria is going to emulate them, especially in the Middle Belt now. And if government refuses to do something about this, the people will do it by themselves. They are saying enough is enough. So what I would suggest, I tried to reach an aide to Daudandawa. They have not responded. What I would suggest them to do is to support these people and legalize their action. That is the only option. You can't stop them any longer. No, these people have passed. They have crossed the point of Rubicon. Like, you can't stop them any longer. Get to them, support them, and legalize their activity. These people are fed up. Anybody who hear the word Zanfara State, you know that it's synonymous with killing, attack, banditry, terrorism, everything you can name and mention. So these people, you can't take away this gun from them. That is number one thing I'm going to tell everyone. The only thing you can do now is to approach these people and legalize their guns. Approach it, legalize it, guide them. In fact, send people to give them training. If you think that you can come and arrest the whole village, no prison to keep them. This is what I call gun revolution. And it's going to happen in Nigeria. And anytime you see everybody picking up arms, you know that the liberation of the people from this terrorist Boko Haram, you know that it is at hand. Nigeria government can't do this. The military, the police, they can't do anything to stopping this. But the people alone can rise and stop this. So after seeing it, up to now, the aides to Zanfara State Governor Daudandawa have not responded. The reason why I'm doing this video is that I saw it again on Arise News. I say yes. You know, when such a thing is happening, I am happy if people can share it. Let Nigerians or the world understands where they have pushed civilians to. These people have been pushed to the breaking point. Like, they don't care about any other thing again. Whatever you are saying, no matter you want to do, they have been pushed to the breaking point. Now, the last word the guy told me is that he said, Mr. Kocha, it is better if we end up in detention than end up dying from these terrorists. Do you see the mentality of this is a battle of survivor? And this battle of survivor is going to lead to gun revolution. Every day people are dying. You know, I made a video the day before yesterday. saying that people of Plateau State and Benue State, that it seems that they don't want to solve their problem. Because there is nothing wrong in organizing a vigilante group of 2,000 people, arm them with gun. Arm them with gun. This is a battle of survival. I mean, people are dying. Let me tell you, the only thing people fear most is death. What people fear most on earth here on earth is death. People fear death more than any other thing. So when people are dying like flies, you know that there is nothing they could fear any longer. Let me give you an example. God forbid, maybe in my village, such a thing is going on, such a thing is happening. I will not be afraid to even make a bomb, do everything I want to do to defend myself. I will not be afraid to do. You know why? If the authorities comes against me, I'll be resting in detention till further notice, right? No problem there. Than an infidel, someone who have not even taken his bath, to just come and kill you because of any reason you can think or mention. It is not going to be happening any longer. The people are wiser now. The people are wiser. So this is a gun revolution, and I am calling anybody that cares. If you are a governor, a senator, if you know you are not part of these terrorists, because a lot of you people are supporting the terrorists. A lot of you people are supporting the terrorists. It's a known fact. So if you are not part of the terrorists, it is time to start arming people with gun. Start arming people with gun. In fact, I am just trying to say this. You see, let everyone become a vigilant. Like, this is not matter of we have a vigilante group. Everybody should be a vigilante member. Like, make sure you are part of the system. It is a gun revolution. That is the only thing that will save you people. That is the only thing that will save you people. So, on the part of government, if you think the terrorists having gun is not anarchy, it's not doom, but they are your prodigal sons, let me tell you, the civilians also have the right to defend themselves. And the only option that will be left for the government is to support the civilians by organizing any group. That is the best thing you can do, so that you can even know the people who are defending themselves, know the people who are having the arms. If you do not do this thing, forget about it. This is a gun revolution. I am just warning, because nobody wants to die again unless people who choose to die. Now, let me tell you the most interesting thing about this. They said that immediately the so-called terrorists, they call bandits, immediately they heard that these people have been armed with guns. Their threats, their movement, they started running away from the village. Like, they are not even seeing them. They said before, like by 6 o'clock, you will see 100 bike passing, doing show of force, threatening the residents. But when they hear that these people have been armed, they give space. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about solution. If you want to talk about political correctness, continue to die. You are dying for nothing. You are dying for nothing. I'm not here to talk about political correctness. I'm here to talk about solution. If Nigeria have the solution, or anybody have the solution to stopping this, see, this is not a permanent solution to say. I have been saying it. This is not a permanent solution, but this is an urgent solution, because people are dying every day. Even as I speak to you, today people will still die. Tomorrow people will still die. So I'm talking about urgent solution, not a permanent solution. And this thing I'm telling you, when Nigeria is being partitioned today, for example, Nigeria is being divided today, which is the permanent solution to this, people will arm themselves like this. There will be nothing like armed robbery or terrorism and so on and so forth. There will be nothing like that. Nothing. Now, let me give you another example. I have been to Libya. In Libya, because of the war that happened, the death of Gaddafi, the country was unstable. Because the country was unstable, everybody started policing themselves. In every house you see, there must be like 3 AK-47, 5 machine guns, even snipers. People have guns, they are policing themselves. And I can tell you one thing. In Libya, you can't go into somebody's house to steal. You can't do that. If you do that, you have signed your death warrant. Even though you are coming with gun, you are coming with AK-47, you say you want to enter someone's house, they will still kill you. They will still kill you. See, I understand that the fear of people is that if so many people have gun now, if people are in the possession of gun, what is going to happen is that there will be anarchy, there will be violence. Shut up. Who told you? In America, no home you will enter that they don't have gun. No home you will enter in America that they don't have gun. Is there violence? Now, let me shock you. Who told you? Who even tell your people that there is any Nigerian home? 3 out of 10 that there is no gun. I mean 3 out of 10. Every 10 homes, 3 there is gun. You people don't understand where this is evolution. We are evolving. For you to come out of this security issue, there must be gun revolution. Everybody must be able to possess gun, even though it's a pistol. And the only thing that is required for any governing authority is to legalize it, approve it for civilians. By the way, these are den guns, like hunter's gun. But you know what? This hunter gun is going to defeat Boko Haram. It's going to defeat Boko Haram. How many are they? Intimidating people because they have gun others don't have? I support the action of these people. I support their action. And I think it's time for everybody to say enough is enough.
Let's go to Zanfara State now, where groups of farmers have started training with locally fabricated guns and weapons in a last-ditch effort to defend their farmlands from frequent terrorist attacks. It comes as armed criminals have repeatedly warned rural communities about imminent attacks, and as a result, a new clip circulating online shows how farmers have resorted to self-defense using guns, bows and arrows to save their lives and livelihoods. Here's the video.
Everybody have seen what is happening here. Because of the activities of bandits in such areas, it has made it impossible for residents to farm. The bandits said this year there will be no farming in the village. This is why the villagers have taken upon themselves to secure their lives and properties with their local weapons that they have. Everybody knows that in Zanfara, farming is our pride, and these bandits are saying that there won't be farming this year, which is impossible.
Get right into our first conversation, and we will be looking at security, especially in the light of recent happenings. And joining us on the program this morning to begin to look at these issues, two gentlemen, of course, Mr. Kabiru Adamu, security consultant, who joins us virtually on the program. We can see you there already, Dr. Kabiru Adamu. Thank you for joining us on the program. And also with Mr. Kabiru Adamu this morning, we have Captain Bishop Johnson, retired U.S. Army veteran, who joins us virtually. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Dr. Adamu, I'd like to begin with you. We saw yesterday a major development, and of course the Attorney General also spoke to it, a mass arraignment of about 500 suspects, and of course we also saw the jailing of some of them who got between 10 to 40 years imprisonment, and the judge also ordered de-radicalization. How does that move the needle from the judiciary bit in the fight against insecurity?
And let me start by commending the Attorney General of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, for moving this forward. From the information given by our security agencies, we know that about 17,000 suspects have been arrested with regards to our terrorism prevention and prohibition laws, and that these 17,000 have mostly not been prosecuted. They've been in quote-unquote awaiting trial, even though we know that the process of determining the ones to be prosecuted, the ones, for instance, to be rehabilitated, and then the ones, for instance, that will probably be released for lack of evidence was ongoing during the period. So it is in this regard that we are commending the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General of the Federation, for facilitating the process of their prosecution. In the area of the realm of counter-terrorism, this is a very strong message. It speaks to deterrence. It shows also transparency, and then more importantly, it allows Nigerians to see the ecospace that terrorism, is involved with. For instance, we through the trial process, we got to know that there are certain individuals who were supporting the terrorist groups through feeding, and for instance, through the provision of drugs, and even in terms of the funding of terrorism. So it is a significant development, and of course, a huge contribution to our counter-terrorism efforts.
Captain Bish, from your perspective, how does this, further along the battle against insecurity?
Okay, again, thank you for having me. Look, the fact that certain individuals were first and foremost prosecuted and even convicted means that some bad people have been taken off the street, and then a strong deterrent message has been sent to other would-be terrorists who would want to terrorize innocent citizens. See, we've been complaining that, there hasn't been much prosecution of those who have been involved in the act of terrorism in Nigeria. So to hear that individuals were prosecuted and eventually convicted is a positive sign. If we have been doing this all along, I am sure that by now we must have sent a very strong signal to those who probably later had gotten involved in the act of terrorism that is, there is always going to be punishment if you get involved in terrorism and eventually you are captured. That message will be a strong deterrent message that we have prevented probably some others who had been involved in act of terror from doing so. The problem is that we haven't had that much prosecution and conviction. And in fact, in most cases, they don't even get arrested, nonetheless being prosecuted. So for the fact that there's prosecution and conviction is a positive step.
All right, Dr. Kabir. Yeah, Dr. Kabir, let me bring this back to you. Away from the prosecution and some of the judgment that has been passed, when I hear, but what do you make? Let me stay with that. I wanted to go to something else, but let me stay with what is the outcome of the court. I do not know. The reason why I'm a bit hesitant making comments around it, because I haven't seen the charge sheet, I haven't seen the CTC to know exactly what was presented before the judge or the judges, because some of these people perhaps are fundamentalists, fundamental terrorists or ideologues in this sense, who the minimum they should get is a death sentence or a life imprisonment. So when I'm here 20 years, 10 years, I really don't understand. So do you have an idea of what the category of these terrorists are to even begin to talk about rehabilitation in this sense?
Yes, so we're talking about 500 suspects thereabout, and in terms of their standing within the terrorist ecospace, their ranking, most of them are low level and mid level. And of course, the judges are guided by our laws, especially the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act. So in most instances, the verdict will be determined by the provisions of that act. And because they are, like I said, mid-level, low-level, that is why you saw the sentence in 10 years. In some instances, the charges will be 4 counts. And in one case, they matched all the 4 years together. Another guy who got the same 10 years had already served 3 years awaiting trial. So the 3 years will be removed from the 10. And I think this is perhaps the aspect that I would like to highlight. That yes, it's important that we're prosecuting this guy, but then it's also more important that we understand the entire ecospace so that it is more the commanders that we're arresting and it is those commanders that we're prosecuting because they are the kings. It's like a game of chess. If you take out the pawns and leave the kings and the queens, then the group continues to operate. And I think so as we progress with this prosecution, the attention of law enforcement in terms of our counterterrorism implementation should now shift to the commander, the kings and the queens, so that the beginning or the end of the group would be something to discuss. But if we just leave it at where we are at the moment, unfortunately, it means that those big ones, those commanders are out there. And that's why we're seeing a continuation of operation. But like I said at the beginning, the Ministry of Justice, the Attorney General, deserves commendation. He inherited a case log of almost about 17,000 people, even though the 17,000 were broken down to 5,000, cases that could be prosecuted. And so taking out 500 from that 5,000, I think is a good beginning. And we're hoping that more of such mass prosecutions will be conducted as we progress.
Yeah, before I take it back to Bishop, you said mid-level, low-level. That category, what exactly do they do? Does any of this category involve killing people?
I think that is probably what...
Bishop, just a moment, Bishop. I wanted Dr. Kabiru to respond, then I'll come to you, sir. Dr. Kabiru, if you got my question.
Yes, I did. So, I mean, from what we know from the case files, the little that we've been able to gather, again, I'm not a lawyer. Mine is from the security angle. That's sort of where I would answer. We know, for instance, that one of them, from what we're told during the case, the proceedings, they used about 750,000 naira to fund a particular terrorist attack. The other ones, for instance, like I said, provided materials that the groups needed for them to carry out their activities. Others recruited. Others were buried in changes that the monies will be sent to, and then they will either knowingly, or I guess for the judge to prosecute them, it means evidence were presented to the judge to make the judges believe that the BDC operators knowingly transferred those monies to the terrorists. Otherwise, I doubt if the judges would have prosecuted them if they did it out of ignorance. So these are the kind of activities within the eco space that the cases revealed. Either most of them, like I said, either supporting in terms of funding, in terms of materials that the terrorists would require, and then in some instances, recruitment of different categories of the eco space within that terrorist group.
Bishop, please, if you could also comment and maybe do your own comparison. I know that we have more terrorism-related issues in Nigeria than the United States. They have their own, issues they are dealing with in terms of insecurity. Is that a fair framing in terms of legislation for the number of years or sentencing that these guys got from the courts?
I think, every country has their own peculiar situation that they deal with. And as you rightly mentioned, the legal framework that is used here in Nigeria is not same as, what is used in the United States. And like from what Kabir Adami is saying, the sentences that these individuals got is probably something that must have been looked thoroughly by the judge who presided over this matter, and from there determine their level of involvement and also the kind of punishment. But let me say this, sometimes you have to use criminals to get other criminals. Like Adam also said, these are low-level and mid-level people, and I'm sure that must have been determined from their level of involvement as the case went on. There can also be some plea deals with some of these individuals for them to be able to give up information that will lead to the arrest, prosecution, and conviction of the top hierarchy in the echelon of these security institutions. So it's also important that we take that into cognizance, that there is trove of information that these individuals must have provided for the system. And so that you can't take that away, and that you can't dismiss that. And so that had to be taken into consideration in whatever punishment that has been given to them. There's absolutely no way these individuals would have been arrested, prosecuted, and convicted without our system being able to derive certain benefits in terms of intelligence information on how to proceed, even with getting some of the top commanders, who in most cases are usually much more difficult to be able to get to, because they are not usually the field commanders who are always exposed to the point that they can be captured.
So I want us to look at these cases, at least some of them that we have. We can't go through all of them, and I'll go to Dr. Adamu quickly. One of the cases involved Shehu Bukar, that's the name of the suspected defendant, facing a 5-count charge, including alleged membership of Boko Haram, participation in a terrorist attack, providing support, undergoing weapons training, and withholding information. Of course, he pleaded not guilty to the 4 counts, but admitted to one of them. So when Justice Yako, or the justice in this case, was given the judgment, he was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment from the date of his arrest. So obviously he had served some time. But the judge also ordered that he should undergo rehabilitation and de-radicalization. And that has been a sore point in this fight against terrorism. So what a lot of people see that as is, you prosecute, you jail, and then de-radicalization sort of makes them ready again to be radicalized, which we've had these cases. From your perspective, being in this fight for as long as you have, is this the right approach? And just how much of this usually comes back to bite us in the bum?
So yes, when we're looking at the entire instrument that are out there for counter-terrorism in Nigeria, we look at the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act as amended in 2022. We look at provisions, of course, within our constitution. We look at the National Counter-Terrorism Strategy. And all of this would inform, for instance, what the judge would do. So he knows, for instance, that, of course, he would prosecute, he would sentence. But then we also have, under the National Counter-Terrorism Strategy, the option for rehabilitation, and then finally reintegration. So on the one hand, he has prosecuted, the person will serve that prison sentence. And then what do you do with the person after he leaves? He's still a member of the society. The provisions of our law does not say kill him. The provisions say sentence him, and the judge has done that. So when he leaves, the judge has also ordered he goes through the next stage, which is rehabilitation under Operation Safe Corridor. And then, of course, after he has been rehabilitated, quote unquote, he would now go for the next stage, which is reintegration. Now, with regards to your question, whether there are risks associated with this, as a risk management expert, yes, there are huge risks. And I'll start with making the point that we have not, as a country, done an independent evaluation of some of these processes. Of course, we are very familiar with the challenges associated with our custodial centers. Currently, our custodial system is undergoing a reform. This is well documented. So that's risk number one. What would happen while he's in detention and the several consequences of those things. Number two, if he goes to the next stage, which is rehabilitation, it's possible the rehabilitation can take place in wherever he's detained, or if he's going to be sent to any of the centers that are doing Operation Safe Corridor. What the challenges with Operation Safe Corridor have also been documented. The military is primarily implementing that with the support of other organizations. But of course, over time, we've seen some challenges associated with that process. So there is a risk there. But then the greatest risk would even come from reintegration. This individual is going to go back to the same environment that created him. The circumstances in that environment, socioeconomic circumstances, political circumstances, environmental conditions, is going to go back to them with very minimal support and with the possibility of rejection from the very society where he has killed or he has supported the killing. So yes, I agree with you, there are risks. And I think as a country, and this is really primarily the responsibility of our security leadership, those that are coordinating the security apparatus, they need to appreciate these risks. They need to put forward control measures, mitigation measures to manage this risk. Otherwise, we would waste money. I say this with all sense of responsibility in keeping them in detention centers, putting them to rehabilitation centers, but then releasing them to the same environment that created them. You agree with me that the very conditions that led to the insurgency are still existing in Nigeria today. And anyone who doubts this should look at the recently released report by the Institute of Economic and Peace, that is the Global Terrorism Index, where we ranked fourth. We reduced 2 places from 6th to 4th. And in that report, they indicated clearly why terrorism continues to thrive in Nigeria. The conditions are still, unfortunately, existing for terrorism to thrive. So those are some of the risks that needs to be addressed if the position taken by the judge, which of course are in tandem with our instruments for counter-terrorism, are going to yield the positive results that we all want. Let's remember that this is just a component of the 5,000 thereabout persons that are awaiting trial. And this will affect all the 5,000 plus others that would probably be arrested going forward.
Having read the brief, and I call it brief, of the defendants and the things that the defendants engaged in, and just to reiterate, this defendant, the 5 counts include alleged membership of Boko Haram, participating in a terrorist attack, providing support, undergoing weapons training, withholding information. In fact, I think the judge described the offense as gruesome, right? So, Bishop, same question to you. How much of this really deserves de-radicalization and rehabilitation? Don't forget that the families of the victims, a lot of them may still haven't gotten closure, are watching. They've lost loved ones. They've lost a major part of their lives, which is why we keep asking, is this a valid approach?
Well, as much as we would want the judge to, have sentenced them to life imprisonment or to death, we need to also understand that we are a country of laws, and our judiciary are not there to legislate. They are only there to adjudicate already legislated matters. So the judge cannot go outside the bounds of our laws to administer punishment. For the judge to have given those kind of punishment, it means that he has looked at through all the legal framework that are at their disposal. at his disposal, and then gave the judgment that he gave. Unless we are saying that, look, maybe our terrorism act does not go far enough in dealing with such individuals. In that case, it's going to have to be a matter of the National Assembly to go back and look at the laws that we have on the book right now and go further. But other than that, the judiciary can only act within what is already available within the legal framework in the country. So that will be another matter to be decided. But being it as that may be, since the judge did not administer life sentence, he didn't sentence them to death, and they are still Nigerian citizens. Once they complete their various sentences, they must come back to the society, and it will even be more dangerous to the society to say that once they are released from the prison, they should just go straight into the society. So there must be a way of rehabilitation before reintegration. And I am sure that rehabilitation is even supposed to start taking place while even they are serving in the correctional services, the correctional centers, since we've changed our prisons to correctional facilities. And so I expect that the rehabilitation process ought to begin at the correctional stage while they serve, because being that they're Nigerian citizens, they must go back to the country, to the society, having done their bit of punishment by way of they're serving in the correctional centers. So, but to what Dr. Adamu was saying, it's not necessarily the case that they still have to go back to the immediate society where they existed before. I think it's something that we can look at what other countries are doing and maybe take a leaf from some of that. In some instances, in going back to those communities where they had existed prior to their involvement in the act of terrorism, is going to even create more problems, both on the side of the individuals that have been released and also those that are in the communities. They can look at sending them to different other communities where they can go and create a different life for themselves. But, we can't do that. It can be a Wild Wild West situation. You can't just release them into the wild and just hands off. The government must have to continue to follow them every step of their life to a certain point until we become sure that they don't go back to living the same kind of life they were living before being rehabilitated. And so it's something that the country is going to have to work on. How do we deal with individuals like that? 17,000 is quite a number of people that if they're not sentenced to death or they're not sentenced to life imprisonment, the country must take their presence in the society very seriously and be able to, find a way to ensure that they do not go back to acts of terrorism.
Well, as you have said, the judge, in her or his wisdom may have looked exhaustively at our laws before arriving at those sentencings. But we also know that the Terrorism and Prevention Act, 2022, does recommend, for the death sentence if, offenses result in death, or in other cases, punitive sanctions as severe as life imprisonment. And so when we have, depending on the offense committed, between 10 to 40 years, perhaps we want to expand, the conversation a bit further. But not as we continue on this one, which we must anchor for now and, perhaps continue it in other fora. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming through on this one. We've been talking with Dr. Kabiru Adamu, who is the Managing Director, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited, and, of course, Captain Bishop Johnson, who is a former U.S. Army officer and a security consultant. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for bringing your expertise to bear on this very important subject.
You dey find real Yoruba gist, culture, truth, and vibes. Now here dey. Arole Baba Tenten Media, no dollar. Subscribe, sharp, sharp.
Mo jẹ́ ẹ̀jẹ́ fún orílẹ̀-èdè mi ilẹ̀ Odùduwà tó ń ṣàn fún wàrà àti fún oyin. Ilẹ̀ tó kún fún àwọn akọni ọgbọ́n ètò àti òye. Mo ṣe ìlérí gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọmọ ológo ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀. Ìtànṣán oòrùn láti la ayé já nílẹ̀ Áfíríkà láti gbé ilẹ̀ Odùduwà lárugẹ. Mo fọwọ́ sọ̀yà pé n kò ní dalẹ̀ tàbí ṣọ̀tẹ̀ sí ìṣọ̀kan àti ìtẹ̀síwájú orílẹ̀-èdè mi ilẹ̀ Odùduwà. Èmi yóò fi gbogbo ipá, ọkàn, iṣẹ́, ọgbọ́n àti ìṣe mi sin orílẹ̀-èdè mi ní òtítọ́ àti lódodo títí ọjọ́ ayé mi. Gbogbo ìyànjú àwọn akọni tó ti lọ kò ní já sófo láti ọwọ́ mi títí dé ìrandíran tí ń bọ̀ lẹ́yìn. Mo ṣe ìlérí pé ẹ̀sìn tàbí ìṣèlú kò ní yà wá nílẹ̀ Odùduwà. Tó bá wáyé bẹ́ẹ̀, mo lè lo ọ̀kan ẹ̀jẹ̀ tó kù sára mi láti fi ṣègbè àti jàjàgbara fún orílẹ̀-èdè mi. Ilẹ̀ Odùduwà, èdè kan, àṣà kan àti ìṣe kan ló so wá pọ̀ láéláé lágbára Elédùwà.